Breaking news tonight in the world of Hollywood. One of the most gifted actors of his generation gone. Suddenly. Shockingly. At just 28 years old. Tonight, we are pulling back the curtain on the final days of Heath Ledger. And what we have uncovered is devastating. The pressure. The isolation. The sleepless nights. The warning signs that nobody saw or nobody wanted to see. Stay with us. Because this story is far more complex and far more heartbreaking than you were ever told. Let's establish the facts. January 22nd, 2008. New York City. A housekeeper and a masseuse discovered Heath Ledger unresponsive in his Soho apartment on Broome Street. Emergency services were called. Paramedics arrived. It was too late. Heath Ledger, Academy Award-nominated star. The man who redefined the Joker. The man who broke boundaries in Brokeback Mountain. The man who had the entire film world watching his every move was dead. The New York City Medical Examiner's Office confirmed the cause of death just days later. Acute intoxication from the combined effects of oxycodone, hydrocodone, diazepam, temazepam, alprazolam, and doxylamine. 6 prescription medications, all legally obtained, all taken together in a lethal cocktail. This was ruled an accident. But here's what the headlines never fully told you. In the months leading up to his death, Heath Ledger was fighting a war inside his own mind. A war fueled by exhaustion, creative obsession, personal pain, and a role so consuming it may have cost him everything. Let that sink in. This was not a reckless man. This was not someone spiraling without cause. This was a deeply serious artist, and the system around him failed him catastrophically. To understand why this matters so profoundly, you have to understand who Heath Ledger was in January of 2008. He was not just a rising star. He was a confirmed genius. His portrayal of Ennis Del Mar in Brokeback Mountain had already earned him an Academy Award nomination. Critics were calling him the greatest actor of his generation. Directors were lining up. Scripts were flooding in. The world was his. And then came the Joker. When Christopher Nolan cast Ledger as the Joker in The Dark Knight, the internet erupted in outrage. Fans rejected the idea. Critics were skeptical. The pressure on Ledger was immense, immeasurable, and he responded by going somewhere most actors never dare to go. He locked himself in a hotel room for weeks, alone, keeping a journal, exploring the darkest corners of a character with no conscience, no mercy, no empathy. He experimented with voices, with mannerisms, with psychology. He slept only 2 hours a night, by his own admission. He told friends and journalists that he could not switch off, that the Joker followed him home, that the Joker was always there. On the career side, the impact of his death on Hollywood was seismic. The Dark Knight was still in post-production when Ledger died. The film would go on to gross over $1 billion worldwide, and Heath Ledger, posthumously, would win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, the first posthumous acting Oscar in decades. His legacy, untouchable, permanent, tragic. But for his fans, millions of them worldwide, the grief was personal. There is a generation of moviegoers who grew up watching Heath Ledger, who saw him in 10 Things I Hate About You as a teenager and fell in love with cinema because of him, who saw him in Brokeback Mountain and were moved to tears, who were sitting in theaters watching him transform into the Joker without knowing he was already gone. The industry lost something irreplaceable. There is no debate on that. And the conversations that followed about mental health in Hollywood, about the psychological toll of method acting, about the dangerous normalization of sleep deprivation and pharmaceutical dependency among high-performing artists, those conversations were overdue. His death forced them into the open. But were they enough? Were real changes made? That answer is deeply uncomfortable. Now, here is where this story gets even more difficult. In the final months of his life, people close to Heath Ledger described a man who was fundamentally changed. Not by substance abuse, not by a reckless lifestyle, but by exhaustion, grief, and creative overload that nobody around him knew how to address. Let's talk about what was happening in his personal life simultaneously. His relationship with actress Michelle Williams, the mother of his daughter Matilda, had ended in 2007. The couple had separated after 2 years together. And by all accounts, Heath was devastated. He loved Matilda. He loved the idea of the family he had built. Losing that, while simultaneously trying to carry the weight of the Joker, was a pressure few human beings could sustain. Insider reports from the time describe Heath as increasingly isolated in his final weeks. He was staying alone in his Soho apartment. He was struggling with pneumonia. He was fighting insomnia so severe that he was relying on prescription sleep aids just to get a few hours of rest. And critically, he was mixing those medications without consistent medical supervision. This is the twist the headlines glossed over. Heath Ledger was not chasing a high. He was chasing sleep. He was a man so consumed by the demands of his craft and his life that his body could not shut down. And the medications he turned to, prescribed by multiple doctors who reportedly did not have full visibility into what the others had prescribed, created a fatal interaction. This was a systemic failure, a catastrophic gap in medical oversight. And it happened to a 28-year-old man who, by every measure, was trying to do everything right. There is also the matter of the Olsen twins and the 911 call, a detail that became tabloid fodder at the time and deserves serious attention. When the masseuse, Diana Woolazin, discovered Ledger unresponsive, she reportedly called Mary-Kate Olsen before calling 911. Multiple calls were made. Time passed. These moments, in a medical emergency, are the difference between life and death. The Olsen twins were never charged. A private security firm was sent to the apartment. The full details of those critical minutes remain, to this day, frustratingly obscured. That is not a footnote. That is a central and unresolved part of this tragedy. More than 17 years have passed since Heath Ledger died, and the questions his death raised remain painfully relevant. Method acting, the immersive psychological approach that Ledger embodied in his final performance, has come under renewed scrutiny in recent years. The deaths of other actors, the mental health crises reported on major film sets, the lawsuits, the controversies, the quiet conversations between actors who describe emerging from intense roles fundamentally altered. All of it traces a direct line back to conversations that began with Heath Ledger. Hollywood has not solved this problem. Not even close. Prescription drug oversight in America has improved marginally since 2008, largely due to the opioid epidemic forcing legislative action. But the fundamental issue of multiple prescribing physicians operating without shared visibility into a patient's full medication profile remains a dangerous reality for millions of Americans. Heath Ledger's daughter, Matilda, is now a teenager. She is growing up in a world where her father is an icon, where his image is on merchandise, where his Joker is referenced in every conversation about superhero cinema, where she will spend her entire life being told how extraordinary her father was, without ever having had the chance to know him herself. That is the true cost. Not the Oscar, not the billion-dollar box office, not the endless online tributes. A little girl who will never know her father. And for the entertainment industry, the question that should keep executives, directors, and producers up at night is this: how many more Heath Ledgers are being pushed beyond their limits right now? How many actors are sitting alone in hotel rooms, chasing a performance, chasing perfection, with no one monitoring their well-being? That answer is unknown, and that is the most alarming developing detail of all. The Dark Knight sequel, The Dark Knight Rises, was released in 2012. The Joker does not appear. Christopher Nolan has confirmed he never considered recasting. That choice was an act of reverence, but it was also an acknowledgement that what Heath Ledger did was unrepeatable. And now, with new Batman films, new Joker films, and a Hollywood machine that never stops producing, the shadow of Heath Ledger continues to loom large over every actor who dares to step into a challenging, consuming role. The story is not over. It is developing, every day, in every green room, in every late-night trailer on a film set somewhere in the world. For the full in-depth breakdown and exclusive updates on this story, including a detailed timeline of Heath Ledger's final weeks, the complete medical examiner findings, and the unanswered questions that still surround his death, visit our website. The link is in the description below. We have compiled everything you need to know, everything the headlines missed, everything that still matters. Do not miss it. The link is right there in the description. If you want daily breaking news on the hidden truths behind history's most famous figures, the scandals, the tragedies, the stories the world wasn't ready to hear, subscribe to this channel right now. We cover it all. We hold nothing back. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because the next story drops sooner than you think. This has been breaking news. Stay informed.